All right, folks, it is Monday morning. You know what that means. Time to recap all the Sunday action. I'm Andrew Cooper. This is Fantasy Alarm. What we do here, we go through, what happened in the box score in terms of receptions and all that, who scored the points. We're going to dig as much as we can into the underlying information, who ran the routes, who got the pass blocking snaps, who got the 2 minute drill, all that to give you an idea of who is important, who's going to help you moving forward, and who's going to be risky, who's not really a guy we can trust. So, before we get into that, I just want to give a quick shout out to Fantasy Alarm, the NFL, all because I comb around and see where we can find information from pretty much everybody out there that's got it. Pro Football Focus, Pro Football Reference, StatHead, uh, Fantasy Points Data Suite, Player Profiler, you name it. We go through and we try and get as much information as we can to kind of make sense of what happened. So let's get started. First game here. Let's look at the Dolphins Jets game. Jets at Dolphins. For the Dolphins, they did what they typically do. No Raheem Mostert. So for wide receivers, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and then because they use the fullback so much and the multiple tight end sets, they don't really have a wide receiver three. So don't worry too much about that. 14 targets for Tyreek, 12 for Waddle. The next highest wide receiver got one target, right? Jonnu Smith ran 38 of 48 routes, which is about what he usually does. Waddle ran 41. Wasn't targeted in the beginning part of the game. They just kind of made sure to make him a focal point, but he bailed you out. Four targets in overtime, 0 points in regulation, 13.6 in overtime. Jonnu should be better with better matchups moving forward. The Jets are just a tough matchup over the middle. And again, with no Sauce Gardner and Michael Carter too playing in the slot, it just wasn't a good spot for him. Again, we mentioned no Raheem Mostert. So Devon Achane played 60 of 72 snaps. Jalen Wright was the next man up, but he still only got 14 snaps, only 2 carries. So it's Achane moving forward. And as long as Mostert's out, Wright is the next man up. Jeff Wilson played a little bit, but only 4 snaps for him. On the Jets side, it was Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams as the main guys, 10 targets apiece. Alan Lazard kind of took over the wide receiver three role. Xavier Gibson fell to the back burner. He ran 33 of 43 routes. So 43 for Wilson, 41 of 43 for Adams, and then 33 for Lazard. So anytime they went with any sort of, two wide receivers or two tight ends, it was Lazard that came out of the game. He only got one target, but again, he's really just a streaming, whatever, dart throw type guy with everybody healthy. At tight end, Tyler Conklin, 32 routes out of 43. Jeremy Ruckert and Kenny Yeboah played a little bit, but you can't really trust those guys with two top wide receivers. We talk about that all the time. With no Brees Hall, he saw 37 snaps for Braylon Allen, 36 for Isaiah Davis. So they split it pretty much down the middle. And it wasn't like one guy was really playing more pass snaps, one guy was getting more carries. It was Braylon Allen, 22 routes, 11 carries. Isaiah Davis, 20 routes, 9 carries. So Davis did a little more pass blocking, but they kind of split it down the middle. So I think that's how we have to view it moving forward. Braylon Allen was the starter, and Isaiah Davis did play a little more pass downs, but it's not really locked in the way it was for some of the other guys we'll talk about coming up here. Next game here, Falcons and Vikings in the Kirk Cousins revenge game, though we did not get much revenge as he didn't throw a single touchdown pass. Sam Darnold threw 5. On the Viking side, Jefferson, Jordan Addison, awesome, went crazy. TJ Hawkinson, once again, did not play a huge snap share, 37 of 60 snaps, but he ran 29 of 35 routes, which is about an 80% route participation, which isn't too bad. So we're not going to move Hawkinson down too far. We're also not going to move him all the way up as if he was playing 90% of the snaps and running 90% of the routes. So he's still a decent option, 5 targets this week. Running back, Aaron Jones led the way, 38 snaps, 13 carries. He got more carries, ran more routes. That's what matters. Like, for in the modern NFL, the backups are typically going to play at least a little bit, unless it's like Christian McCaffrey or Kyron Williams type situation. But Aaron Jones is playing more in all phases, so he's the guy. Cam Akers is the backup. Fullback CJ Ham played a little bit. On the Falcon side, Drake London led the way, 74 of 74 snaps. Darnell Mooney, 70 of 74 snaps. Went out and had 140 receiving yards, second most on the week to only Puka Nacua. So good for him. And then Raymond McLeod played 47 to 74 snaps, so he's more of a part-time guy. But this week he did get a good chunk of targets, 10 targets, just a good matchup for him. But again, you know what he is. He's like a Demario Douglas type, PPR only spot start type player. Kyle Pitts played 58 snaps, 29 of 38 routes, 5 targets, but he's just not effective. Can't trust that guy, especially with London and Mooney playing the way they are. So it stinks, but Pitts, he needs a different situation to if he's ever going to get back to that 1,000 yards he had with Matt Ryan as a rookie. Bijan Robinson, 63 snaps out of 74, which is why it's such a shame that Tyler Algier, on only 13 snaps, stole that rushing touchdown on his first carry of the game. That's what Tyler Algier does. And Algier, on only 13 snaps, he got 9 carries. So when he's in the game, they're giving him the ball. He again, that's a guy that in a desperate situation, you throw him in as a streamer because he could score. Right? There's so many guys that like they're not used in any sort of situation that could lead to a touchdown. That's where that guy lives. Next game here, Saints at Giants. For the Saints, Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Kevin Austin Jr. both played on the outside, 48 and 45 snaps for them, 7 targets for MVS, 4 for Kevin Austin. That's what they like it. Those guys play ahead of Cedric Wilson and Dante Patterson, all these guys. They used a lot of 2 tight end sets here. 49 snaps for Foster Moreau, 49 for Juwan Johnson, but Moreau played in line. So Moreau ended up only running 15 routes out of 36. Juwan Johnson ran 28 out of 36, got 5 targets, scored a touchdown there. So 28 out of 36, not too bad. That's not much different than what we saw from TJ Hawkinson. So with Taysom Hill out, Juwan Johnson gets a little bit of a boost. Derek Carr got hurt in this one. Worth noting that Jake Haener came in to play the last 5 snaps. He might have a broken hand. It's his left hand, not his throwing hand. So we'll have to see what they do with that. But obviously, big downgrade for virtually everybody. Alvin Kamara, 17 carries for him. Played 49 snaps to 18 for Kendra Miller. I know Miller got the touchdown. Miller got 10 carries. So I mean, again, Kamara played over him in every phase, and he's probably the only guy that you can really start. But in deeper leagues, keep an eye on Kendrick Miller. They're giving him another chance because it's a new regime. On the Giants side, Malik Neighbors, despite their reports that he might play a limited snap share, played 73 of 78 snaps, got 9 targets, did most of his damage at the end. I mean, with this Giants, you have to keep in mind 56 pass plays were called, right? So Wan'Dale Robinson ran 55 routes. Like this has happened multiple times. It's tricked people into starting guys like Cole Kmet. Just be very careful in games like this with this many dropbacks and this many pass calls because it's like everybody's getting a bunch of targets. 9 targets for Tracy, 9 targets for Wan'Dale, 9 targets for Malik Neighbors. But it doesn't always work out like that. So guys like Darius Slayton and Daniel Bellinger are kind of just like spot starts. Bellinger did play 61 of 78 snaps, 46 of 56 routes run, which is pretty good. But again, he's behind a lot of those guys in terms of the pass catching pecking order. So really just a deep league play or DFS play if you're going to go there. Tracy played 65 snaps to 14 for Singletary, which is great. So Tyrone Tracy, awesome. Really great dynasty player. I know the team isn't awesome, but it's good to have guys like that because he looks talented. Next game here, Panthers going into Philadelphia. Definitely really scared that guy with $3 million on the Eagles because this one went down to the wire. And the Panthers have been playing better. So I actually kind of like it. Brees Young as a waiver ad. But let's talk about the Eagles first, home team first. A.J. Brown, 55 of 58 snaps. Devonta Smith, 52 of 58. Smith and Brown, 26 routes for Brown, 27 for Smith out of a possible 27. So these guys are the full-time guys. And then Johnny Wilson and Jahan Dotson split, so they're useless. Grant Calcaterra played the Dallas Goddard role, the Calcaterra wine mixer, our guy Calculon, 53 of 58 snaps, 25 of 27 routes run. Only 3 targets, but that's kind of what Goddard does. They only threw 27 times in this game. So you got 4 for A.J. Brown, 5 for Devonta Smith, 3 for Calcaterra. I mean, that's exactly what Dallas Goddard is. I don't know what anyone was expecting more than Goddard or even what Goddard is, but that's what you're going to get out of Calcaterra. If one of the wide receivers gets hurt, now there's upside. But until then, just a back end tight end one, more like a high end tight end two. Saquon Barkley, 44 snaps for him, 20 carries. I mean, he was Saquon Barkley. Kenneth Gainwell backed him up, 14 snaps for him. So Gainwell not really doing enough to be worth a start. On the Panthers side, they kept doing what they were doing with David Moore and Xavier Legette on the outside, 62 snaps each for those guys. And Adam Thielen played 53, but Thielen is a reliable guy for them. So it is Legette and Thielen as the guys you want to target. If you want to target anybody, David Moore is just a journeyman and kind of a sacrificial X. Tommy Tremble and Jatavian Sanders split as we have seen them do. 46 snaps for Tremble, 35 for Sanders. That's out of a possible 71. But Tremble ran fewer routes, 17 routes for Tremble, 24 for Sanders. Sanders gets a slight bump. He's going to be higher in our rankings, but they weren't targeted heavily. So what are you going to do? If one of those guys is out, the other one's a start, but they split. Can't really trust any of them. Chuba Hubbard, 69 snaps to only 3 for Jonathan Brooks because Brooks suffered an injury there. They're going to do tests on that, hoping all the best for Jonathan Brooks that it's not a serious injury. But I wouldn't be surprised if they would just shut him down just because it's like they're not playing for anything. He's got plenty of time to practice and play this offseason. Like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Browns at Steelers. Steelers ended up winning Team of Destiny. I know Howard says you can't be the Team of Destiny kicking field goals, but you can if you just keep winning. So shout out to the Steelers. Shout out to Josh Wagner and Sham Blunt. With this one, Van Jefferson led in snaps. We said it was the boring possibility with George Pickens out, and it's what happened. 48 snaps for him, only one target. Classic Van Jefferson game. Scotty Miller and Calvin Austin were next. 34 snaps for Scotty Miller, 23 for Austin, but Austin ran more routes. I mean, again, it really is George Pickens or nothing here. Mike Williams only played 19 snaps. That's actually fifth among wide receivers, with Ben Skowronek playing more than him as well. So can't really go there with him. Pat Fryermuth, 40 routes, 40 snaps, 21 routes, tied for the team league with Van Jefferson, 3 targets and the touchdown. I mean, Muth, they're using him a little more, so I'm using them in lineups where I have to because it's kind of slim pickings out there. But you could still probably do better than the way they deploy him because they kind of take him out for some run snaps, and that kind of hurts his ability to do play action. So he's not really, you can't move him way up despite him scoring 9 points or more in 3 straight games here. Uh, for the running back, the scheme called for a little more passing. So Warren played more snaps than Najee Harris, 34 to 27. Najee got more carries, 16, but Warren ran more routes and got more targets. And that's kind of what we've been used to. So you kind of got to try and figure out what the game script is. But if they're leading, it's going to be more Najee. If they've got to throw more, it's going to be more Jalen Warren. That's the way she goes. On the Brown side, Jerry Jeudy continues to be awesome. He led the team 66 snaps, 41 routes. Once again, Jameis Winston willing to drop back and let it fly. Basically, the only game where he didn't throw 40 or more times was that one Steelers game on Thursday where it snowed. So they want to throw. That's what they're going to keep doing. Michael Woods played in Cedric Tillman's role, 63 snaps, which was more than Elijah Moore's 60. Ran 38 routes. Elijah Moore ran 37. So when Tillman gets back, he'll just replace Michael. I almost said Elijah Woods. Yeah, he'll take over the Hobbit role there. No, Michael Woods will be out. Cedric Tillman will be in, and it'll back to be being Jeudy, Tillman, and Moore as the full time guys. David Njoku, also full time guy, 65 of 72 snaps, 40 of 45 routes. We love to see it. 12 targets. David Njoku, tier one player at this stage. He has to be. So we're going to get him moved up. Absolutely. In negative game scripts at running back, you see more Jerome Ford. It's kind of like up until this point, it's been like a Derrick Henry and Justice Hill situation where Ford will play the snaps, but he won't get as many touches. This week, they gave him 10 carries. 10 carries for Ford, 11 for Chubb. But then Ford ran 23 routes to 12 for Chubb. So if you if we're going to have a negative game script, we're going to see Jerome Ford. And Cleveland's schedule moving forward is Kansas City, Cincinnati, Miami, and then week 18, which doesn't really count for fantasy, but it's Baltimore. I mean, I would, if I had to bet, I would bet that Jerome Ford plays more snaps than Nick Chubb rest of the season just because of that schedule. So Jerome Ford, a possible waiver ad there. Um, just keep in mind they might have games where they run it a ton with Chubb and don't hand it a ton to Ford. We've seen a couple of those, but still, I mean, he's the pass down back on a team that's probably going to have to pass. So got to keep that in mind. Raiders at Buccaneers. Mike Evans, 51 snaps, 29 routes. Jalen McMillan, 49 snaps, 29 routes. And Sterling Shepard played the part-time slot role, 30 snaps. So basically, this team changed what they were doing. Before, they would use Chris Godwin in the slot and then move him out wide for 2 wide receiver sets. What they're doing now is Evans and McMillan are playing out wide. And then for 3 wide receiver sets, more Sterling Shepard comes in and plays the slot. So got to move McMillan up a little bit. Obviously, he's not going to score 2 touchdowns every week, but 7 targets, very solid. Kate Otten, 60 snaps, 29 routes. 29 routes obviously ties Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan. So the usage is there. But, with Evans back, he's not as much of a focal point. So we do got to maybe consider that. I mean, you're probably still going to start him unless you have 2 high-end options. With Bucky Irving leaving he had hip and back injury. I guess it was the back that acted up on him. Rashad White played 47 snaps, 11 for Sean Tucker. So if Bucky Irving is going to be out, Rashad White is very much back on the menu as a volume play. He dominated in all phases in terms of usage with no Bucky. So we'll keep an eye on that. Bucky, obviously a very good play if he's going to be healthy. On the Raiders side, Jacoby Myers led. There were talks about him not playing 61 snaps out of 67, 9 targets. I mean, he was fine. He was good. 9 targets as well for for Michael Mayer, actually. So they used a lot of two tight end sets. What they did is they did Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer all played 55 or more snaps. The next highest wide receiver was Terrace Marshall with 15. With no DJ Turner, they just went full on two tight end sets. So that's what they're going to do. Uh, at running back, with no Alexander Masson and Zamir White, Sincere McCormick really took over. I mean, he got 15 carries to 1 for Abdullah. Abdullah ran 16 routes, but McCormick still got a couple of receptions too. So it's definitely McCormick over Abdullah. That was my fault. In our PPR, I had a McCormick over Abdullah in our standard and our half rankings, but I figured Abdullah would run more routes, so I had him higher in the PPR rankings. He did run more routes, but it didn't matter. McCormick over Abdullah in all formats moving forward until Zamir White and Madison get back. Next game here, Jaguars at Titans. Brian Thomas Jr. for the Jaguars led the way with 47 snaps. Parker Washington played 44. Devin Duvernay played 29. So it's Thomas and Washington with Gabe Davis and Christian Watson out. Evan Engram, 42 snaps, 29 routes, 5 targets. Like, he's still a focal point of this team, but Mac Jones is just not as good as Trevor Lawrence. So you got to bump those guys down on quality of targets and ability to move the ball for the offense. At running back, Tank Bigsby really dominated the carries. 18 carries for him, 4 for Travis Etienne. Now, Etienne played the pass downs, so he ran 18 routes to 9 for Bigsby, and that led to Bigsby having 31 snaps, Etienne 28. But again, uh, if one guy's going to get all the carries, that's going to be the more valuable player for fantasy. Pretty much always been that way. Uh, Next team here, Tennessee Titans. Nick Westbrook-Ikine continued to lead in snaps, 60. He ran 31 of 34 routes, but he didn't catch a touchdown, and that's what's been the problem for him all year. When he catches a touchdown, great. When he doesn't, terrible. Like, he's just not a volume player. Calvin Ridley is a volume player, so he got 11 targets. He ran 31 routes, so just like Nick Westbrook-Ikine. Tyler Boyd, the third part-time guy, mostly coming in for pass snaps, coming out for two wide receiver sets. He ran 25 of 34 routes, got a couple targets, but he's kind of a boring player there. Chigakonkwo, 46 snaps out of 64, only ran 23 out of 34 routes, got 4 targets, didn't do much with him. So Chig is just a tight end 2 dart throw. Will Levis did not have a good game here, man. We were hoping he would, but it was absolutely brutal. So what are you going to do? I mean, and again, if you can't do it against the Jaguars, when are you going to do it? Tony Pollard got 40 snaps to 24 for Tajay Spears. Pollard got more of the carries, and they split the pass work evenly. 14 routes for Pollard, 16 for Spears. So it's Pollard over Spears moving forward, and it's kind of always been that way. Seahawks at Cardinals. We told you guys that if you had Zach Charbonnet, he needed to be in the lineup, and he was the RB1 this week in fantasy football. With Kenneth Walker out, Charbonnet is awesome. He dominated. 50 snaps for him, only 15 for Kenny McIntosh. He got most of the carries, most of the targets. He was great. Wide receiver, it's what it's been. JSN and DK Metcalf are full time. Tyler Lockett is part time. And then Noah Fant only played 37 to 63 snaps. So a guy that we already didn't trust much, only ran 22 of 30 routes. Still can't really trust him. They do mix in AJ Barner a little bit. I bet Noah Fant will probably be gone this offseason. So maybe stash AJ Barner on your dynasty league benches because I don't know if they need to pay Noah Fant if they're just not even going to use him really. Cardinals here. Marvin Harrison Jr. led the way, got 8 targets. Michael Wilson played 59 snaps. Marvin played 60. So he is a full-time guy still. 38 routes for him, 40 for Marv. And he scored the touchdown, but he's obviously the third target behind Marv and Trey McBride. So again, very rare for us to trust a third target player. I mean, there's 32 teams. And if you take the top 2 targets from every team, that's 64 players. There aren't even 64 fantasy relevant players. And it's very rare to have 3 guys all from the same team. So the reality is that each team is going to have 1, maybe 2 guys. Some teams are going to have 0. That's just the way it works. Trey McBride is one of those guys. 40 of 42 routes run, 12 targets. Trey McBride rocks. It's him and Brock Bowers at the very top. Obviously, you've got Kittle and Kelsey and Njoku and Johnny Smith, but like those 2 guys have been so reliable in full PPR. James Conner, 55 snaps, only 10 for Trey Benson, 8 for Amari DiMarcano. It's the James Conner show until anyone says different. And the schedule here, Patriots, Panthers, Rams. That's going to be very nice. So if you made the playoffs with James Conner, you got to be feeling pretty good. I would sneak Trey Benson on the bench if you can, just to be safe. Next one here, Rams at Bills. This was the big game of the day. This one was awesome. 77 offensive snaps for the Rams, so a lot of offense. Cooper Cup and Puka Nacua played virtually. I mean, they played as many of them as you can. Cooper Cup 7 targets, Puka Nacua 13. Jamarcus Robinson was the third fiddle, only 1 target for him though. Tight end here is a mess. Only 13 routes run for Colby Parkinson out of 28. Davis Allen, Hunter Long, useless, those guys. Hunter Long, I guess he did. They blocked a punt and he returned it for a touchdown. So shout out to him for doing something. Kyron Williams, monster day in terms of usage, 29 carries, 22 routes run. Blake Corum he got some carries, but 64 snaps for Williams, 13 for Corum. He remains a top handcuff, but not really a guy you can trust. On the Bills, out of a possible 60 snaps, you got 47 for Shakir, 46 for Mac Hollins, 36 for Curtis Samuel, 32 for Amari Cooper. So they're still kind of easing Amari Cooper in for some reason, but he got 14 targets. So maybe they were just rotating him because he was tired from getting peppered with so many targets. Shakir has been consistent with 7 targets, 6 for Mac Hollins. Can't really trust a guy that doesn't wear shoes. Dawson Knox filling in for Dalton Kincaid, 49 snaps out of 60. 30 out of 41 routes run, but only 1 target. So not really useful until Kincaid gets back. James Cook played over Ty Johnson, but Ty Johnson, Gabe Davis rotated a little. 27 snaps for Cook, 21 for Ty Johnson, 13 for Ray Davis. They weren't really in a spot to run the ball a ton. Only 6 carries for James Cook, 6 for Josh Allen, 1 for Curtis Samuel. So only 13 carries on the day. It's very scrappy game there. And then 2 more games here. Bears at 49ers. 49ers, Deebo Samuel and Juwan Jennings are the 2 outside players. Juwan Jennings was awesome. I got to check and see if they had Jalen Johnson shadowing Deebo Samuel or what they did there. 5 carries for Samuel, only 2 targets. Juwan Jennings has been excellent. Juwan Jennings, if you take the games that he's played with no Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel, right, which is 6 games, he's averaging over 22 PPR points per game. That's second only to Jamar Chase, if we're going to take the season averages. So, I mean, like Juwan Jennings is locked in. One of the best waiver ads this year in recent memory. George Kittle, 52 snaps, 23 routes run. He's a every week must start player. Isaac Guerrero started, got pretty much most of the work, but then he got hurt, left the game with a foot injury. We have to see what happens there. Patrick Taylor got more work when he was out. Patrick Taylor, 20 snaps, only 3 for Keyshawn Vaughn. So it'd be Patrick Taylor, Keyshawn Vaughn, and Izzy Abanikanda. Taylor is the guy, presumably, if Guerendo's out. Unless Izzy shows up and really shows out, then you got to lean on Patrick Taylor. On the Bears, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen pretty much played most of the snaps here. 47, 48, and 49 snaps. They had 33 pass plays. Odunze and Allen ran 31 routes. Moore ran 32. So they all played the whole game. 5 targets for Odunze, 5 targets for Keenan, 8 for DJ Moore. Cole Kmet, he ran 30 routes. So these guys are running 30, 31, 32. Cole Kmet ran 30, 0 targets registered. He had the drop on a very weird play. I think there's a penalty, so it didn't really count as a target. But, I mean, Cole Kmet, we told you not to trust that guy. We told you to bet the under. I don't know what else to say now. Just no more Cole Kmet. DeAndre Swift, 42 snaps, only 7 for Travis Homer. So with Roshan Johnson out, they just leaned on DeAndre Swift. So good news if you have DeAndre Swift. Last one here, the night game. Chargers at Chiefs. Chargers made it a game, but Chiefs escaped once again. In terms of snaps, Xavier Worthy finally kind of broke away a little bit in terms of snaps. Everyone's been playing like 60% of the snaps most weeks. Worthy, Hopkins, Watson, Juju. This week, out of 69 snaps, Worthy played 57. So not the whole game. He ran 35 routes out of 43, but it is now clearly starting to look like Worthy and DeAndre Hopkins are the preferred pass catchers, and they're going to get more of the reps. 6 targets for Worthy, 8 for Hopkins, 0 for Watson, 2 for Juju. Travis Kelce, 59 of 69 snaps, 38 of 43 routes run, led the team in routes run, got 6 targets. Noah Gray, only 20 of 43 routes run, but he got 5 targets. I mean, like, if you stack up the season total, Noah Gray is kind of like Austin Hooper, where very similar number of targets and yards to Hooper. A better Austin Hooper because he's in a better offense. but he's not really playing the whole game. He's still kind of touchdown dependent, but in some of those deeper FFPC tight end premium, two tight end leagues, you could do worse. They juiced his price up on like FanDuel, so he's not really even a good. I mean, he was the 13th most expensive tight end this week, so it's not really a good play there. But still, can't ignore the fact that he's getting some looks. Isaiah Pacheco played over Kareem Hunt in essentially all phases. 14 carries for Pacheco, 5 for Hunt, and then they kind of split the pass work. 14 routes for Pacheco, 13 for Hunt, but 4 targets for Pacheco, only 1 for Hunt. So it's Pacheco over Hunt moving forward. On the Chargers side, with no Lad McConkey, they had Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston played virtually the whole game, 52 and 48 snaps. They ran 30 and 34 routes out of 36. They got 9 and 7 targets. So if Lad McConkey's out, both those guys are worth a spot start. Darius Davis and Jalen Rager and DJ Chark, none of them even played half the game. Will Disley left the game with a shoulder injury, so he was kind of getting his targets in the first quarter, hurt his shoulder and didn't come back for the second half. With him out, our guy Stone Smart, 21 snaps, so 22 snaps. So he basically just took over as a pass catching tight end, got 3 targets at 54 yards. I'm telling you, this guy, man, I've been saying a long time. Very last roster spot, taxi squad spot. Stone Smart, former quarterback, former wide receiver, athleticism. Look out now, Stone Cold Smart, baby. And to wrap this up, running back Gus Edwards led. He got 10 carries, ran 10 routes, but Kamani Vidal got 8 carries and 17 routes run when it got into the negative game script. So Kamani Vidal moving up. Actually, 32 snaps for him, 26 for Gus Edwards. So he's kind of a waiver ad here as a guy that could potentially help you out. So that's it for us. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you could hit like and subscribe on the channel, that means a lot. That's what keeps us going. It's something you can do for free to help us out. But that's it for me. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back, as always, on Tuesday with waivers, on Wednesday with start sits. Thursday, we have the pregame show. Friday, I'll have a guest on. And then we're back into Sunday morning. I'll be filling in for Jim Bowden on SiriusXM most nights this week, every night but Wednesday. He's going to be at the winter meetings for MLB. So you got Coop on the SiriusXM. Thank you guys. Have a good one.